Of Foggy Hill Cannabis isn't just about cannabis growing. It's about working with nature to create a sustainable future. From the power of worms to the strength of our soils, every step we take is a step towards a greener world. So won't you join us in Foggy Hill Cannabis as we dive into the fundamentals of Hugo beds and much more? Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to Organically Blunt. I am Jay Blaze, your host, and this evening I have the pleasure and the opportunity to speak with Keith from Foggy Hills Cannabis. Welcome to the Organically Blunt Show.
Thanks for having me. What's up?
Definitely. So we want to dive right into things, but we kind of want to know where your story began. And with that being said, how has your passion grown and where did it start for renewable agriculture and being sustainable in the way you are today?
Um, well, I've always kind of grown things from a young age, and I guess we just always kind of did things organically. Kind of, I guess I didn't really realize what it was. Like, it was just like, hey, we take the compost, we put on the garden, and that's just kind of how we did it. And then growing cannabis most of my life, I've been all over the place. When I started, it was a lot manure teas and bone meal and blood meal was like the big hot things. Um, and then came the salts. It seemed like, and I think everybody dabbled with that a bit. But then, um, you know, probably in the past 5 or 6 years since our farm, we started farming flowers, cut flowers, because cannabis wasn't an option. We kind of had a passion to grow stuff, so we wanted to find an avenue. That kind of sparked our once we started farming permaculture, right? Like we started to get into permaculture, and that just it's a wormhole. It just you start if you're really into there's so many paths you can go down to, and they all seem to lead back to each other and this way and that, and it's just a journey. So I don't know how it all started, but it just keeps snowballing. It's just like one thing after the next. It's a lot funner to watch your farm and soil transform for me. I always say like I'm not really a farmer of flowers or cannabis. I'm really a worm farmer. I like to think that like I really like to make my field a thriving habitat for worms, and they kind of take care of the rest, man. I mean, I got to put some inputs in, um, but it's just a circular passion, I guess. Every time I start to get a little burnout on it, and here comes something along that kind of sparks my interest into the next wormhole. How can we make our own fertilizer? How can we reduce our impact and become more sustainable and close this loop? And it's a never-ending cycle if you're into it.
Oh, I'm into it. I
Yeah.
absorb this stuff. So when you reached out, I started doing my research on you a little bit, checking out what you had going on a little bit. I mean, you don't have a whole lot on Instagram, but you
No.
know, I kind of got that gist. And when you started sending me some of your history, I was like, man, he reminds me of these guys that I hang out with right here in Michigan. My best friend is his name is Chris. He owns a company here in Michigan called Country Roots Soil, and he does soil and amendments. And then I've got my other buddy Nick Risen from Lime Rising Farms. He is known for huge Hugo beds. I'm talking so huge that they use heavy equipment to dig them. And
That's cool.
yeah, and it's amazing what they come. If you get a chance, you guys, and you want to see some just some extremely huge Hugo worms, and also
I
just
do.
plants that are yeah. Just check him out. I'll send you his link after the show. Otherwise, you guys can check him out. It's Lime Rising Farms. He's a friend of mine, but this ain't about him. This is about Foggy Hill Cannabis. So, I want to hear more about how you do your stuff. So you're a worm farmer. I got a lot of friends that are. I haven't done it firsthand, but I put a lot of them into my beds. I
Yeah,
Because I live in a housing community, I don't have the opportunity to do all that yet. My next step is to buy some land here. But you know, I know a lot about it, but there's always more you can learn. So, for the people out there that want to get involved in this, like hugelkultur and the benefits to that, and basically making your own vermicompost, do you have any recommendations on where to start? Like, where did you start? I mean, there had to be some inspiration somewhere along the line.
sure. So that's a great question. I think anybody can do vermicomposting, even if you live in an apartment. Like even
Okay.
if you got a 4x4 grow tent and you're just rocking some bags, but you want to make compost teas, and we all you can go to the store and get vermicompost, but there's nothing like it straight from the source. It's not been dried out. Like the microbial life is the best, right? So what I started out with is I just went to the store and got a couple bins. I watched like a random YouTube video, like everybody, and just went for it. And you just take a couple bins and basically drill holes in the bottom of one, put them inside of each other, so you got some drainage, right? Because they don't want to sit in water. Um, and then you can just get some cocoa core or even some spent soil if it's not like too, if you're not running salts and things and it's not bad for them, you could put that in there, and you just need like an initial bedding. Then after that, once you get a thriving community, you just feed them banana peels, like whatever you got. You got some little composting by the sink, you can feed them that. And it's real simple, and it doesn't smell. I thought it, at first it was a really hard sell in a way to the family. Hey, I got worms in the basement in a bucket, in a bin. But it really, you don't even notice them after a while, and it's awesome, man, to get your own stuff. And then we just kept scaling it up a little bit because they multiply. There's,
Oh yeah.
so next thing you got two bins.
That's so cool though. And I like how you broke it down. You kind of made it educational for the newbies out there, including myself. I know the gist of it, but I didn't know what you feed them and stuff. I know I've actually seen worm food on Amazon and stuff like that. And I've tried it, and it works. I can tell you firsthand in my beds, they do love avocados. If you put
Oh
one of
yeah.
them down, they like literally come right up to it, and it's amazing to see.
Hmm.
So if you don't get a chance to experience that or use watermelon, in
Oh
your
yeah.
bed, guys, throw some of that in there and watch what happens, especially if you have worms in there.
Or
It's
pumpkins.
amazing.
They
Yep.
love pumpkins. I one fall just went out and collected pumpkins. Like I put out a little thing on social media, like, hey, you know, come around Saturday for your spent pumpkins, and well, we got a lot, and that worked out real well. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I actually learned that they don't actually eat the food. It's kind of they're actually eating like the bacteria on the food, and
Oh
then they
wow.
kind of accidentally eat the food, and it just passes through their gut, and there's a bunch of microbes in their gut that's actually processing that food, and the poop's just full of microbes. So it's pretty cool to me. I know it's not cool to everybody, but I think it's neat. I think
Definitely.
it's just another part of like it's just cool to make all your inputs and know that you can do that. I think whether you're somebody that's, like I said, growing just a 5 gallon bag, plant, auto flower, whatever, or you got a big farm, being able to make your own stuff is just really fun. I think it's like just like growing your own cannabis can be rewarding once you start to uh, do that, and then you start to want to dabble more, and you want to make your own fertilizers and amendments. It just adds more and more satisfaction, right? Like
Oh,
the
definitely.
final product when you're smoking it with your buddies and whatever makes it better.
Well, and then like the biggest thing, like we talked before we came on the show, how I mentioned I have an autoimmune disease and stuff. I gotta have clean medicine. Clean in,
Mhm.
clean out, clean in, clean out. basically, what you put into that medicine, so what it's going to come out of it is going to be the cleanest. If you're smoking it, if you're eating it, however you're consuming it, you it's clean and it's safe for you and whoever else is consuming it. It's not sprayed with anything as far as chemicals
Hmm.
go. There's no radiation involved in it. I mean, you definitely have a craft going. So you say you were in trims jail.
Yeah, big
Um,
time right now.
how many
Probably
did
like
how
everybody.
many how many did you take down this year?
We did. I think we started out with about 225 plants. We're probably going to harvest about 200. We had, in there, we had some that just didn't work out for us.
Yep.
This is our first year with our license, so we have some cultivars that, I've grown for years indoors that we kind of try to move outdoors. And then we kind of tested out a few things. Being from the Northeast, it's genetics, it's the infancy of New York weed in a way where I think forever genetics have been about THC and size of plants, but mold and mildew is huge here.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so finding those, like, some things worked out, some didn't, it is what
I
it
know
is.
how that goes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still harvesting a couple. I'm limited on space, so I'm doing mine in the way that I'm kind of trying to stagger it, I guess you'd say. I do it every year and it works
Yeah.
out good, but I do get some overlap where one might not be quite dry enough for where I want to cure it at, and it's like, okay, hurry up because I need the space, but you can't rush perfection. So it definitely is that way. I got a guest in the chat here. They wanted me to ask you, Ivan here, if you use a product called Super Thrive. I'm not
I
familiar with it.
Is that I do not, but I think I know the product. I think I've
Okay.
seen the bottle. It's a small bottle, I believe. Green bottle. I don't use that. I don't know what it's all about. What do you know anything about it?
I personally don't. I'm all living soil, kind of like you, and I use amendments from my friend's soil company, and I kind of water only, hands off on my beds. I mean, it kind of does its own thing. But he said it's a mold and mildew everywhere, so I'm guessing it must be something that has to do with treating mold and mildew of a
Hmm.
sort and or something. I could be wrong,
I'll have to
and
look into that.
yeah, me too,
Um,
definitely.
I don't know, but I am pretty like, I recently was listening to a scientist. I gotta like kind of get it a podcast with like these scientists on it, and they were saying how about in the beginning stages of flower, there's like some research right now about really boosting calcium and silica, like pretty hard. Like I know we all give it calcium during that stage, but supposedly that's supposed to really knock down bud rot and things. And
Okay.
um, I don't know. I was like, it's a Google Scholar article, so I was like, hey, maybe I'll add that to the winter reading. Right now, I
Yeah.
don't have much time for that, but um, yeah, I mean, hey, that growing outdoors in the Northeast is pretty tough. I'm sure Michigan's the same way.
Oh
I know
yeah.
Michigan and New York are actually kind of the same agriculturally and a lot. My wife's actually from Michigan, so I've spent
Oh
some
wow.
time there, and I find a lot of parallels besides topography, but like it seems to be agriculture wise very similar,
We get
actually.
a lot of rain. I mean, we get a lot of wind too, and weather just changes all the time. You can have 4 seasons here in a week. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just so, and it's like that where you guys are. I know because I got a friend that actually has an apple orchard. He's not in the city of New York. He's in the countryside, and he told me because he used to work with me, and I've never been there personally, and I've always dreamed of seeing the big city. Just to say I
Oh,
seen it, and he's like,
I think he froze.
uh oh,
You there?
yep, I'm here.
Is that me or was that you?
Must have been you.
Sorry.
Hey, you're all right.
We
But
back?
back to yeah, you're fine. That's okay. Things happen. We're not mad at you, and we don't edit nothing. So it'll be here. It's okay. It's a joke. It's a laugh. If things happen, But you might have some buffering on your connection, um, and that happens. But yeah, like I was saying, I got a friend that lives in the countryside there, and he um laughed when I thought, basically the whole state was the city. And he was like, no, we got country here. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he explained how you guys get a lot of rain and wind. So I can
Hmm.
imagine you guys deal with a lot of PM and bud rot and um, stuff of that nature. We dealt with a lot of that outdoor this year. We dealt with a lot of um, what I call platoplasma. Plato, how do you pronounce it? Plasma, I think is how you say it. And it's where the plant starts to turn purple, but it's not genetics. It's
Oh,
from the caterpillars. And
yeah, it's like a bacteria, right?
yeah, we had a few of those. And then I had a lot of just a lot of caterpillars this year and a lot of Japanese beetles. And so this year I'm going to put down milky spore in the early season. Well, next year in the early season, and hopefully that'll help treat it for years to come. So we'll
You
see what
tried
happens.
the beetle traps? Use those.
I haven't, no.
You can get those at your local agricultural store if there's one nearby, and they seem to work pretty good. Just tip. I mean, I use them a lot. I learned about them because of the flower farm. The beetles can be pretty rough on that, and once again with that we're no till and all that jazz, and um, so it's always a challenge to deal with bugs and try to stick to your morals. It's like luckily
Yeah,
there's so many things now, but it can be challenging to deal with all that and not spray and stick to it.
right. Now, how old are your berms now? How many years have you been running in them?
In our hugelkulturs,
Yeah.
1 year.
Okay.
So I have some for our gardens that are older, but for the cannabis field, it's 1 year. Um, what it was is we had a no-till flower field that was about 4 years old, but we have so much clay here that I was worried about the cannabis plants like root depth and drainage. So we knew we had to get up, um, but we also wanted to try the hue culture with the cannabis. So we just build them up on top of the soil. So it's a little bit untraditional. We didn't dig big pits because we didn't want to disturb what we already had.
Sure.
And I wish I could have pictures and stuff, but it really came through because um, there was already so much microbial life. Um, every fall we cover our field with leaves and stuff. Like we drive around and get like bags of leaves for like a week and spread them out, and it kind of insulates it. You pull it back in the spring, and there'll be tons of mycelium
Oh, I
um,
bet.
everywhere. Yeah, it's like a white map, and so we didn't want to fuck all that up, more or less. Like, so we just built up on that, and then what we did is we kind of did the traditional culture. We put down logs, and we actually built beds like with some slab wood, just some raw slab wood that we got, so it's like super organic. um, and we went in the woods and just dragged logs out and then built up traditional culture way, and then we kind of dug the rows out in between and threw that in so we could like kind of top it with some super soil, and then just kind of repack the pathways with wood chips, which is
That's
kind of
awesome,
for most
man.
no-till people something you do all the time. You're just always moving
Yep.
freaking wood chips, man.
Oh, I know how it goes. My,
Yeah.
all my buddies do the same way. My buddy Chris with the soil company, he put his on top too, and but then you got Lime Rising. He's literally taken like a Kubota and went in there and grazed it all out and made it all square and put logs in there and did it all like extreme. But his plants are like I'm not saying 30 foot exactly, and they're not that big, but they're like, in my eyes, it's like looking at a 30
Yeah,
foot
dude.
plant. You're just like, holy shit. Like,
That stuff
but
works so good.
yep. And the thing about Nick that makes his story unique is he's from Tennessee and he moved up here and he got bit by a tick and got Lyme disease. That's why his farm is called Lyme Rising Farms.
Okay.
And that's his story, you know, but him and his wife, man, they do it just them two, and they just have hands here and there that help. You know, people will maybe need some medicine or something because he's a caregiver, and it's huge. Definitely. I mean, it blew my mind, but I can imagine what you guys are doing on your scale because our next step here is eventually a 500 plant license. We just haven't got to that level yet with my buddy at the soil company, but you know that's his plan, and he's still building a greenhouse up for his indoor
Froze.
worms. Yep, we got you back. We got you back.
Sorry again. I
Hey,
don't
it
know what's
happens.
happening.
That's all right. It could be the internet connection. Things happen, you know, or if you're running off a tower, it
I
happens.
am in the
You know,
far corner of the house, so everybody's I got little ones and they're kind of like on the other end sleeping, so I was like nestled back here in the kitchen.
sure, sure.
But yeah, we're the same way. It's just me and my wife here. We're a very small farm, and that has its perks and its downsides.
Definitely. So, what have been some of your favorite cultivars that you've grown, and who are some of your standout breeders you're working with, if you don't mind me asking?
We just kind of pheno hunted over the years. Um, let's see, we're running a Gary Payton.
Oh yeah.
We're doing the strawberry Gary. It's what is that? It's God. Well, it's a red pop and Gary Payton cross. It's really nice. It's really got that nice burnt rubber smell that I like, skunky. You know, I love
Oh
that.
yeah.
And
Definitely.
God, now I'm drawing a blank. I've run their Ghost Train Haze too. They won the Cannabis Cup with Ghost Train Haze. I can't think. Rare
Wow.
Dankness.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of them?
I've heard him mentioned. I don't know him personally, no, but
Yeah, there's so
I've
many
heard of.
breeders now. We do a Tropicana cookies cut. That's pretty good. And we did blueberry muffin this year,
Okay.
which came out pretty good. We did it because it's supposed to be pretty mold resistant. So we did actually 10 different cultivars of it, and try to kind of outdoor pheno hunt it a bit. Um, it it did okay. It smells great, looks great, but some of them didn't do too good. So I don't know. We got to kind of go back to the drawing board on that one. Um, and then we just did some in-house genetic stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We ran a Kush breath. We used to run a Kush breath indoors in tents, and it was always really good. But we wanted to kind of see what it'd be like outdoors, and it was okay. It was a real good indoor extractor strain because it just crystals over so freaking well. Outdoors, it was okay, hit or miss.
Right.
It's going to be good for extraction, but um, I don't know if I'd run that again. And then we did a old school Blue Dream strain, just because a processor that we knew really said that they were looking for Blue Dream. So we
Oh
thought we'd
yeah.
give it a run. And then you think nobody wants Blue Dream, you know? You're like, that's
Oh,
old. That's what my buddies are like, oh, that's so old. And I'm like, but the thing is, I think people want those old strains still, you know? Everybody wants the newest, hottest, but there's a lot of people that just want things they know.
Blue Dream is my Tylenol. I've mentioned it multiple
Yeah.
times on. Yeah, it's what I use. I have sinus cluster headache syndrome, which basically it's like people get migraines, but I get sinus headaches with major pressure. Sometimes I even pass out. It's not good. And I've been trying to control it, and the only strain that literally knocks it out when I get a bad headache is Blue Dream,
Hmm.
and no lie, and it's something in it. And so I literally, like I tell everybody, that's my Tylenol. I don't smoke it on the regular. I literally keep some like in the back of my storage area for Tylenol, like because I don't
Nice.
take Tylenol. So like, yeah, it works great for me. But
There must be a cannabinoid in there that just works well for you personally for that,
definitely,
right?
yeah, I'm guessing so. But you mentioned a couple in-house genetics. Them guys are great. They actually were just at the last event I covered.
Oh
I've
yeah.
I've, I've met them guys a few times personally. They come and speak on our panels at our events here in Michigan.
Are they
And
from Michigan?
I don't think so. No,
No.
I don't think they're local. I think they fly in. But they do I've met the guy a couple times. I've talked with him. I don't like ask him where he's from. I just kind of listen to him talk about genetics because most of the time they're on the panel. Lily's with like five other
They
breeders
do a
talk.
lot of things, man. I mean,
Yeah.
they're
So
I like always I go on North Atlantic Seas. I don't know what other people use, but there's all kinds of sites. But I go on there all the time and just be looking at seeds like everybody, or you know, there's
yep,
there's other websites, but you're always just kind of like, oh, I wonder, it's not enough
definitely.
time to crack. I don't have enough time anymore to just pheno hunt all the time, but it's just so addictive in its own right to like just I don't know, it's fun just to find good strains.
I
It
run
might take
Yeah, definitely. I run Atlas Seeds outdoors, Atlas and Humboldt.
okay.
Atlas Seeds is breeded by an agriculture and horticulture specialist that has a farm of his own, large scale, kind of like you. And they're strictly outdoor, and they
Hmm.
do some autoflowers now, but they started out strictly outdoor, and they breed them specifically to be mold resistant and stuff. So if you're interested, I can connect you. I'd love to see you be able to try something that works for you. And I know a lot of them work here in Humboldt. They are breeded to be some of the best genetics out there. I mean, they've had problems with some out there too. I'll admit that not everybody's perfect, but
Exactly.
they definitely are some of the standout breeders that I deal with that I would have no problem passing a connection down to you, especially
Sure.
with you, looking at the scale you're working at. I mean, I'm only doing at the most 36 to 48 plants where most people, they're running a couple hundred, but
Yeah. Yeah, we'd
I,
like to do more next year. It's this year was just a lot of building and all the bullshit that goes with transitioning to being legal and like you're like, oh, I got to do this now.
definitely.
you know
I followed you guys' legalization, and some of it blew my mind. They had pop up cannabis stands right in Central Park. I mean, it was littered with
oh,
the things, and I could
they're
not
everywhere,
believe it. Mhm.
but it was all California trash weed rolling in.
Oh,
um
okay.
that a lot of it, I mean, quite a bit. When we first went legal here, it was like these sticker stores, and you didn't really know what you were going to get. Just like you said, like you want to know what you're going to get, and you just knew you weren't getting
Right.
good product. Like it's probably something from another state that couldn't pass testing, and I don't know. Things are different now. Our state has had ups and downs with legalization, like everybody. Um, I do feel like they are in their heart trying to do the best thing, but you can't satisfy everybody,
No, right. Yeah.
and
I
it's tough.
definitely. Ivan once again said here we should take mothers of the beans we grow and run clones to keep them going under a T5. A good idea if I had the room myself personally. I don't have the room for that. Plus, with the show, I talk to so many breeders, so it gives me an opportunity to try variety. That's why I don't keep mothers personally, and
Yeah,
but that's just me.
yeah. I
What
keep
about
mothers. Over the years I've done it, but yeah, I think if you're a home grower too, sometimes some of the funnest thing is just keep running genetics. Like you might find one and latch onto that particular
Yep.
plant for a little while, especially if you got a big enough tent where you're like, every run I'm gonna run one of these, so I always have this around. But yeah, it's just fun to taste the rainbow, isn't it? Like,
Oh
what
yeah,
else is next? Like,
definitely. Well, and I've got so many now that it's fighting over what is next, because
yeah,
I've probably got enough to grow for the next 20 years as a home grower. And it's
that's
like, okay,
cool.
who's next, and then I pull one out of the vault and they get to be talked about on the next couple episodes that we put together. And, you know, I'm going to be doing some 517 genetics, which is local to Michigan. Um, Here in my autoflower tent that we're putting together. I'm still piecing everything together, but I just came up with I will be releasing, so make sure you guys stay tuned, a new watering system. And it is not blue mat. We have done blue mat, but this is a totally new one. And it's going to be really cool. I mean, it's obviously for the home growers and not so much outdoor. I mean, you could probably use it outdoors, but it's more for the indoor home grower, but it's going to show you guys some cool new inventions in the not necessarily inventions, but new products, I guess you'd say, in the industry. And yeah, I'm trying to be as sustainable as you are outdoors, but indoors. And being I'm a truck driver, I'm trying to stay hands off as much as I can because and go automated on a lot of it because I'm not home. I'm only
Yeah,
home 8 hours a day, and that's just to sleep and do whatever else I got to do. So like my grows are mostly hands off. So um, what have you decided in your growing career, I guess you'd call it, has been the hardest thing you've had to go up against with Hugo beds? Like, what has been the most difficult part?
um, with just hugelkulturs, building hugelkulturs.
Yep.
Um, well, I don't know if there's anything really difficult. After you build them, sometimes like I built quite a few of these at this point, in different places in my yard, not just cannabis, but we just, we have enough property. We like to grow things. We have them all over for different things because they work. But unfortunately, sometimes they become habitats for other things and plants, like I don't know, like small mammals. I don't know even what they are, but I've like I don't want to say woodchuck, but like chipmunks and things. They'll get in there. You'll see burrowing things, and that kind of sucks. And then I've had ants
Oh
because
yeah.
I probably have drug crappy wood full of ants out of my woods, and I didn't realize it, and that's happened to me. And that kind of stunk. I just remedy that with some of those little ant traps. It's not. I know it's not organic, but it's like, what do you do at
Sure.
that point when you have
Right.
ants crawling on your plants? Besides like some sticky stuff in those. Um, but that's kind of sucked a few times. The first culture I built, I had this great garden growing out of it. It was just for gardening. It was like the experiment. um, my first one. And then, one day I came home in the middle of summer and yeah, something just kept eating stuff. You
Oh,
wait forever for these things to grow. Like, I forget I think it was like cantaloupe or something. And so
okay.
we're waiting forever for some cantaloupe to grow. And then all of a sudden you look at them and they're eating and you're like, what the heck? And then the next day, you like all of a sudden another one's gone. Then you're noticing holes in the hugelkultur and you're like, wait a minute,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so then that just turned into like, how do we get rid of these things, and if anybody out there knows, let me know, because like besides putting poison in there, I don't know if there's a way. We tried a few different things, but nothing really worked.
Right. I know the guys here, they do like them. I know it's inhumane, but instead of chemicals, they're doing the spike thing where if something crawls through it, it gets them.
I think I've
It's
seen those actually
yep.
when I was researching what the heck can I do about this problem.
Yep. And then for the ants, the only thing organic I've seen, and people don't believe it until they try it, at least around your plants,
Hmm.
sprinkle ground cinnamon. Ants do not like
Cinnamon.
cinnamon.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's the only thing I've found I've used in my beds. Like when I used to get ants from bag soil and I'd get gnats, I don't get that as much. I do get gnats sometimes if my watering system waters when it's warmer, and it tends to saturate my medium. It tends to draw some gnats, and then I use the yellow sticky traps myself. But
Hmm.
outdoors is a different, like one of the guests said here, is a different thing. And that's the thing. That's why I love doing indoor and outdoor, because it kind of prepares you for the worst of worst on both. But outdoor, you're going against Mother Nature, and indoor, you're trying to not bring Mother Nature in on your
Hmm.
clothes. The biggest thing I can tell anybody that does both, especially me, is if you're gonna do your indoor, do it in the morning or at night with clean clothes before you go to your outdoor. So that way you don't track anything in, because they can
Yeah.
come in on your clothes. Yeah.
Seems like
That,
that's sometimes a harder task to do and stick to day
yes.
in and day out because
Oh
it's so
yes.
easy to fuck that up one time and track
Oh, it
something
is.
in.
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
I used to do an indoor and then flower farming outdoors. It was always a challenge to like exactly that, like not drag crap into my controlled environment where I'm trying to play God, and the other
Right.
one I'm at the mercy of God. Like
Definitely. Yep.
it's
Yep.
like when you're outdoors, you are just a slave to the weather.
You ain't lying.
Like
And
I'd be watching that weather app like nonstop.
I went to my buddy called. We had windstorm here a couple weeks ago, a bad one. We get what they call lake effect straight
Yeah.
winds, straight line winds, and my plants look like the upside down spiders because I let them grow natural, and I didn't cage them this year or stake them that much. So my buddy calls me at midnight, and he owns the farmland that I grow at, and he's a farmer like you, but and he says, your plants look like upside down spiders out there in the yard. All your branches are laying on the ground. And I'm like, oh shit, I don't want bud mode, and I don't want
Yeah.
this and that. And he's like, you better get over here. So I go over there. I got bamboo stakes. We got them all over out there. I just didn't use them this year because the plants looked good and strong, and they didn't need it. And then flower hit, and they got heavy, and they just,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, that's my challenge this year. And I broke a few, and few of them didn't make it. And that's the biggest thing with outdoors. You're learning something new every year. We have a sun grown competition we do in December, so everybody gets to harvest, and you know end of September, October, they get some time to cure, not a whole lot. And then we do around December 19th, I think it is this year or so, a big sun grown and Thanksgiving type dinner that we put on here, and it's amazing. And but one of the things that I want to go back to that one of the guests did ask before I dive into the normal questions we ask every guest is,
Okay.
are you on city water there, or are you on well water?
So we are on well water,
Okay.
um, and if we're talking about what I water my plants with, which I assume we are, um,
Yep.
we when we bought our farm, we started farming on a different property actually. Okay, we decided we wanted to have a farm, and we quickly realized our previous house wasn't going to support our dreams. So we needed to upsize, and we came to our farm. I know it's a little long-winded here, but we got here and we tried to do our flower farm the first year, and we quickly realized that our well wouldn't support it. So that kind of sucked. And what we did is we realized there was an incredible amount of surface water here because we have so much clay. There's not a lot down deep, but there's a lot on the surface. So how do we harness that? And so we dug ourselves a pond, and then we have several outbuildings in our house. So we installed ICB containers, which I'm sure we all know what those are. Um, and we put those on all of our downspouts. So really, for most of the spring and part of the year, I mainly use rainwater
Okay.
for pretty much everything. This year, I got to about May, mid May, I forget exactly, where I started to have to draw water out of our pond. Um,
Wow.
and and I water all summer. Our pond didn't really go down much, and we had a pretty bad year, so that all worked out. Like we didn't get a lot of rain this year. I don't know about Michigan, but where we're at in New York, it was
No.
actually kind of a drier summer. We
Yep.
had a couple storms, but not that regular rain that you need. And it all worked
Right.
out. The hugelkultur beds worked out really well because I really only have to water like once a week, real deep. You know, hit them good. But those things just hold water. It's incredible. Um, I ran out of time this year, and I did grow in some 20-gallon bags. We did about 80 plants in bags,
Wow.
and that was kind of a pain because I hand watered them. I just didn't have time to set up drip irrigation. I'm trying to do everything, so it's like by the time you water one day, you can't get ahead enough. It became infuriating, but um, so we watered those and we drawed out of the pond for those. Um, so it's all just clean, good water. And our pond's cool because our ducks go in there. We have about 22 ducks. I
Oh
think that's
wow.
what we're at right now. 20 ducks. Let's say 20. I lose count. We're up in the and that's like our main source of fertilizer, really. Um, Ducks are great for that, and then they go in our pond and they poop in that, and I'm sure that's just all mixed into our water, for farming. So that's our main water source. Yeah, we are on a well, but we can't really use it. We realize, not for everything. So
Definitely.
I
Have you
think the
ever
biggest thing
pH?
about farming is adapting and overcoming. That's what I always say. Just there's if you focus on negatives, it's tough. It's like I don't know. You got to pivot a lot and just
Right.
keep moving,
Definitely.
man.
Somebody asked if you ever pH the water just to see where it's at.
Um, no, but I used to pH my well water, and I used to do that. And our well water was like an 8. It was quite high. I used to have to
Yeah.
drop it down quite a bit, and that used to be really annoying because I used to really be real like everybody real anal about that with
Oh
my
yeah.
meter and making sure my water. But I feel like, honestly, I don't do that anymore. My rainwater is just rainwater, and I feel like
Yep.
it's as good as it gets. um I've seen people online like say like, oh, rainwater's not that good. It can have stuff in it, but to me it's as good as it gets. And then, I'm a big fan of this guy. His name's Nigel Palmer. I don't know if you know who that is. He's big in the Korean farming stuff. He has a book out. I highly recommend anybody out there to read that. That's kind of like where I get a lot of my info from and how to do a lot of this, because a lot of this can be overwhelming sometimes, Korean farming. But this guy will break it down like so, like a dummy like me can understand it. Like I don't know, like it's very Korean farming for dummies. Like, remember those books? But it kind of just breaks it down. And if you read his book, he really breaks it down how rainwater is super important for foliar spraying. So we do a lot of foliar spraying, and if you have like rainwater is pretty clean of minerals and stuff, and he really recommends that, and I believe in it now because if you use your well water or city water, it will block up pathways in the leaf surface, and then you're not really getting the nutrients in there that you think you are as well. So we're just all about the rainwater, man. It's pretty
That's
big.
awesome.
I wish I could get more of it. Like my eventual goal is to have an underground storage system. Um, One step at a time, though, right? It's like
Yep.
always
Yep.
building.
S- So,
So
you
hope
know,
that answers that.
definitely you've done a well job on answering that, Uh, like Ivan said, it is still good to pH. I don't pH personally. I know a lot of guys that don't, and outdoors, I think it tends to be a little bit different. I'm not saying people don't, but at least up here in our neck of the woods, not very many people pH for their outdoor. I will be honest,
Yeah,
and
I feel like I would have to, like, I water on the daily just for bags is about two. It's an ICB a day, so I would have to pH so much freaking water. Like I'd be dumping, tons of stuff to buffer it one way or the other.
Right. Yeah.
And like you said,
I
I
would.
don't know if it matters as much outdoors because it's like you're uh slave anyways to the hydrology of the soil, whatever's in there already.
Yep.
It's going to be
Exactly.
hard to, and even indoors, I don't know. It's hard to always get it all do.
Yep. Well, the biggest thing you got to remember when collecting that, and this is a thing I've learned about rainwater, is you don't want to collect it off a downspout off your house or off your shingles. One, your shingles contain petroleum. We don't want that in the flour. And two, if you're trying to avoid trace metals, you definitely don't want it coming off a tin rough or down an aluminum downspout because you're getting that trace metal into your water source. I mean, that's just the way I've seen it. But if you put a barrel out in the middle of a field with a plastic, I mean, then you're getting plastic leaching. But
Yeah,
no matter what, you're going up against something.
I've
I
seen it
mean,
debated online and over on that, but like I can't find much research on,
right.
like, if you go on Google Scholar and you try to look for like a peer-reviewed article on any of that, it just doesn't really exist, and that kind of stinks. It's like,
I
where
believe that.
somebody
Yep.
do that, like let's figure that
Definitely.
out. Because you're
Right.
right. It's like, hey, I just want the best possible thing. That I think that's what we're all striving for, really. If you're listening to this podcast, you're probably on the same path of just wanting the cleanest product you can get with the lowest impact.
Definitely. Yep. I got another guy that I want you to check out sometime if you're interested. His name's Matt Powers. He's got a
Okay,
book out called Regenerative Soil, and I think you would enjoy it. It
sure.
is a little on the pricey side, I will admit. It's like an $85 book, but it he is a scientist and he studies in depth, and his YouTube channel is also impressive as well.
Yeah,
And
sure. Send me
a
that
good
link.
friend. Yeah, I'll plug you in
Send me
with
all
some
kinds
stuff
of stuff.
after. Yeah, no problem, definitely. But
Yeah,
I want
man.
to dive into you as a person with the plant, and
Okay.
not so much your company, but you as a person. And
Yeah.
the question we typically ask everybody is, when was the first time you tried it, and where'd you get it from?
Okay. I think the first time I smoked weed, I was like 14. I was in high school, and I got it from my friend Jimmy D. Shout out to Jimmy D. But I got a bag from my buddy Jimmy D, who I think got it from his older brother. And yeah, and then me and my friend Sean, we'd smoked it, and I don't even think I think the first time I ever smoked weed, I'm one of those people that, like, I don't think I'm high. I don't think I even.
Yep.
Were you like that? Like, I was like, I don't,
No, I wasn't,
you
because
weren't.
my first time was worse than everybody. My first time trying cannabis, I also tried psychedelics at the same time because the
Oh,
cannabis
that's a rough
I
day.
smoked, yeah, I smoked was actually Special K, so which is ketamine, which is a horse tranquilizer, and it is a it makes you hallucinate and see stuff, and it was not the greatest, but it was awesome. I will put it that way. But
Yeah,
yeah, that was my first.
that's a no
Yeah.
doubter.
Right, yeah, but no, my first time smoking, I can't remember if I did or not, to be honest with you, because from there on, I kind of just always smoked. So, like, it just became second nature. So, but
Yeah,
definitely, that's how I tried it. But we all get it from a friend or a older brother or a family member usually, and or we sneak it from our parents.
yeah.
So
Yeah, back then I had to like plan a sleepover. I was like 14. It's like, all right, Friday night.
right,
But
yep.
yeah,
Exactly.
to be young
So
again.
do you get the munchies when you consume? And if you do, what is your go-to munchie?
Ooh, well, I am a notorious late night snacker, and I'm an everyday smoker, so it probably goes hand in hand. Um, and I guess cookies. I love cookies. I always say like baked goods, anything, any kind of baked good. But man, like I have to name something specific.
No, 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 no. Just curious.
I like I like Little Debbie products. I know that's
Oh,
horrible,
hell yeah.
but man, I mean, give me some of the classics. Give me some fudge rounds and milk, and I'll crush. I'll probably binge eat a
Oh,
box
yeah.
of those. You know.
Definitely. Oatmeal cream pie cereal. For the OGs, we know what
Yeah,
it is.
man.
For the new cats, you take a box full of them and you crush them up in a bowl of milk. You let them get soggy. And I'm telling you what, you got the best cereal you ever had.
I've
And I
never
ain't even
had that.
lying.
Maybe I'll have to try
Oh,
that.
it's phenomenal. Trust me.
Yeah,
I'm a
I like
Debbie
both those
guy.
two things.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And my cousins live in Arkansas, and that's where Debbie's made. Gentry, Arkansas. That's where the factory is, and
Oh
it
yeah,
is literally, yeah. It's a Seventh Day Adventist, one blinking light, uh, Mormon style, basically town, and you either work for Little Debbie or you work for Gates, which is a rubber company, and that's all they have there. Or you own a little shop in town, and that
that
was
must
it.
be huge though. Is Little Debbie factory huge?
Oh, it's humongous. And they got a
Yeah.
it's like a day old bread store, but you go in there and you get like boxes of Debbie's, like grocery carts for full to the top for like $20. Back in the day anyway. I don't know, I haven't been down there in a long time, but that's how it used to be. Yeah, and it was amazing. Yeah,
That is funny.
definitely.
It's like a vacation spot for me. Like,
Yeah,
for
definitely.
real.
Definitely.
That's
But
funny.
I gotta ask the final question here. Well, actually, final two before we let you off the horn here, and
Okay.
that is the first question is the authentic, organically blunt question that we ask everybody, and there is a rule to it. You cannot think about the answer. The first thing that pops in your mind, I want you to blurt it out. So, with
Okay.
that being said, here we go. If you could smoke with anybody dead or alive, who would it be and why?
Oh, I'm gonna go right away. Jimi Hendrix.
Hell yeah. Okay.
Okay. Um,
Yep.
I'm gonna say that one just because I like playing music. I also like to play guitar a lot. Huge passion of mine as well, and that just popped in my head right away. Like, who wouldn't want to just smoke a J with Jimmy and jam
Oh
out for a
yeah.
little while, or chill? Anybody up that vein, I think I could name a few musicians, but Jimmy just pops right out for me.
Definitely, definitely. And the final question before we let you go. Not only was it a pleasure you having you on here, and I'm gonna plug you with a bunch of stuff afterwards, but where can everybody get a hold of you? Where can they connect with you? Where can they find you?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of ways to connect right now. You can find us on Instagram, Foggy Hill Cannabis Company. I know there's not a lot of content on there right now. We're first year, and we're just so busy. It's hard to make anything. We're hoping to retroactively maybe throw some stuff up. We took some stuff this year, but it's just tough to do it all. Um, so that's the best way to get a hold of us. You can DM us on there, or follow us along and hit us up, and we'll. I guess that's the best way, really, right now, outside of
Definitely.
me giving you my personal contact info.
Right, right. No, right. Definitely. Well, like I said, it was an absolute pleasure having you on here. Great
Yeah, man,
conversation.
I had a good time.
You're
Thank you.
welcome back anytime. Anytime you guys got something going on, you want to share it, don't hesitate to reach out or anything. Or if you know somebody that has a story to tell them to come on over. Anybody's welcome. And the thing I like to say in this community is there's no community without you and I. So we all are in this together. So let's work together, and everybody's got a story to tell. So you enjoy the rest of your evening. The next episode you guys will see coming up, we are going to Michigan Gems and Genetics this weekend for the annual Halloween party. So you'll be seeing me
Cool.
in full costume out there if you guys attend, and we hope to see you guys next week if not. So with that being said, enjoy the rest of your night. If you can't stay lit, stay organically blunt. Thanks for coming on the show. Have a good night.